Hey everyone, Joey Hollywood here, and this is the epilogue of the 2016 run of 31 Days of Horror. Well, sorry. This was an interesting year. This was the easiest year out of all of them. I've done this for 4 years now, and this was by far the easiest year. But I also feel that it's up there with the first year as just not being very good, and I think the views on the videos actually reflects this. Hardly anyone was watching, and I started to wonder, why am I doing this? Because it got to the point where I wasn't enjoying it anymore. It felt more like an obligation. And I think that comes to the announcement. 2017 will be the final 31 Days of Horror. I will not be making any more after that. The theme for next year's 31 Days of Horror is ghosts, and it will be the final one. The reason why I'm doing this is because I feel like 31 Days of Horror is very subpar content. I feel like it's not very good, and I think it gives people it gives them an impression of my channel that I don't think is representative of all my work. Because these are very short reviews that they're actually really not even reviews. They're reviews in the very loosest sense of the word. They're just my general thoughts directly after watching a horror film. And with some of these movies, I wish I could just talk more about, but I don't have the time because once I'm done with that one, I gotta watch another one. Or in the case of this year, I watched Flesh for Frankenstein. And sorry, my hair is doing a weird thing. I watched Flesh for Frankenstein, and then I couldn't review it because I didn't have any time to review it. It was a weird movie. I had to sit there and I had to sit and contemplate what the hell I just watched, and I didn't have time to do that. So I was like, I don't know. Check back with the epilogue, which I'll be giving some better thoughts on that in this video. So for those of you guys who only tune in once a year to watch 31 Days of Horror, I'm sorry. I can't keep on doing this every year. The Halloween season is a big deal for me and my girlfriend because that's when we first met. And this show kind of gets in the way of that. So I apologize. But I'll try to make sure the 2017 run of 31 Days of Horror will be worthy of your enjoyment. Now it's time for the 31 Days. Now it's time for the 31 Days of Horror retrospective. On day one, I did the original silent film produced by Thomas Edison. I remember being a little surprised as how visually dynamic it was for a movie of that age. The second day, I did the classic 1931 movie, and it was good as always. Third day, I did Bride of Frankenstein, but I also did a little spin on it. I edited the original Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein into one movie, and I'm really glad I did because it was a thing I've always wanted to do. I watched Son of Frankenstein, and it was a lot of fun. Ghost of Frankenstein was okay. I like it, but it's definitely a big step down from the previous three. The Curse of Frankenstein, the start of the Hammer Frankenstein movies. I had a lot of fun with this one. Christopher Lee is a great monster, and Peter Cushing's a great Frankenstein. Revenge of Frankenstein is a pretty good movie. Great follow-up to the first one. It's the only one that actually picks up directly where the last one left off. Evil of Frankenstein, didn't really care much for this one. Like, it's not bad. I still enjoyed it, but it wasn't like one that really stuck out in my mind. It had some interesting elements. I remember there was a lot of parallels between the Hypnotist and Frankenstein's monster, that the Universal Frankenstein had a relationship between Igor and the monster. Very similar, but different. Frankenstein Created a Woman, probably the most bizarre Frankenstein movie I've watched this year. It was more of a possession movie than anything else. Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed was one of the better sequels of the whole Hammer franchise. I really enjoyed this one. I believe it was my first time watching this one, although I can't remember very well. The Horror of Frankenstein was pretty bad. I didn't. I'm pretty sure I liked it more upon my first viewing, but now that I've had time to think about it, I think I like it a lot less than I let on. Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell was okay. I liked it a lot better than the Horror of Frankenstein and a couple of the other ones, but it still wasn't all that great, and you can tell that it was towards the end of Hammer's heyday. Young Frankenstein is an absolute must for everyone to see, not just horror fans or Frankenstein fans. It's just a movie that people should seek out. Flesh for Frankenstein. I got a lot of flack for this one because I didn't really review it. And I'm going to elaborate more on my thoughts right now. Flesh for Frankenstein is a very strange movie. There is a line in it that, and I quote, says, "You don't know life until you fucked death in the gallbladder." And the movie's all about sexual orientation or sexual identity. And you can either interpret it as a high art film or a low brow, awful B movie. It's very weird. I have had time to think about it, and I want to say I really didn't like it. So yeah, that's it. All I got to say for it. I didn't like it, but some people do. Frankenstein: The True Story. This one was really hit and miss with me. There was a lot of weird stuff added to it that I honestly just didn't like. I didn't like it all. But then there was some stuff I did like. This one is one I would recommend skipping over. I'm not sure what I said in the actual video, but now that I've had time to think about it, I don't think this one is all that important. I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, part of the I Was a Teenage Whatever series. This one is most notable to me because it's a very bland movie. The best thing about it is the title, but the one thing that sticks out the most to me is the last, 15 seconds of the movie is in color. And it's really strange because the whole movie's in black and white up to that point. Frankenstein 1970, which came out in 1958, was another highlight of the year. It featured Boris Karloff as Dr. Frankenstein. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I was really happy to see this one. The only reason why I watched it is because I found it on YouTube for free. And I recommend checking it out. Lady Frankenstein. This was one of the movies I watched with riffing commentary. This one done by the Incognito Cinema Warriors, which I would recommend the Incognito Cinema Warriors, but not recommend this movie. Frankenstein's Castle Freaks was another one I watched with riffing commentary. This one done by Cinematic Titanic. And it was probably one of their better riffs because they're split up into two types of riffing, live riffing and silhouetted riffing. This was one of the better silhouetted riffing ones. The movie was horrible, but that's what you're going for when you pick a riffing movie. This was the last of my little movie riffing things. This one done by Elvira Movie Macabre. This one I didn't like at all. There was a weird humming noise throughout the entire movie, and it was really annoying. The only good thing about it was the host segments with Elvira. The Bride was a really good movie. I'm really happy I saw this one. I hear a lot of people give this movie a hard time, but I really liked it. I thought it was a good movie. It wasn't a horror film, but it really didn't need to be. I'd recommend checking this one out if you haven't seen it already. Frankenstein Unbound is okay. I wanted it to be better than it was. It has a lot of good actors in it. Has a good director. Has a fantastic poster, but the movie overall is just so-so. It's Back to the Future with a Frankenstein twist. Frankenstein, the TV movie from 1992 that stars Randy Quaid. One of the best movies of this whole 31 Days of Horror. It was probably one of my favorites. I'm really happy I bought this one from Warner Archive. I will definitely be watching this one again in the future. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the biggest disappointment of the entire year. I wanted to love this movie. Bram Stoker's Dracula is one of my favorite movies, and this is always cited as the spiritual sequel to it, and it's just terrible. It's a very pretty looking movie. It's a well shot movie, but it is just awful in a way I can't really describe. You just got to see it. It's just so bad. It's obnoxious. It's like a little kid waving his hands in your face. Frankenstein Reborn. This was a movie I wanted to see since I was a little kid, and I finally got to see it. And it was like a Goosebumps movie. It was bad, but I was happy I saw it because I've wanted to see it for so long. Frankenstein, the miniseries from 2004, another great version of Frankenstein. This would be another one of the ones I recommend. However, the Frankenstein's monster in it kind of sucks, and they try too hard to make him sympathetic, almost to the point that it's almost funny. Frankenstein, Day of the Beast, is a piece of crap, but I can tell that the people making it really worked hard on it. It's just the movie was really bad, and there were some very questionable Foley choices. Frankenstein's Army is a movie I heard everyone freaking talking about for the longest time, and I finally saw it, and it sucks. Whose idea was it to make a HD found footage movie set in the 1940s? It's just idiotic to me, and it really hinders this movie because there's a lot of amazing practical effects and makeup effects in this, and it's ruined by the found footage aspect. The Frankenstein Theory. I don't remember watching this. I know I did. I remember pushing play. I remember watching it, but I don't remember anything that happens in it. I would say skip this one. I have Frankenstein. It's a bad movie, but I couldn't rip it apart the way you guys wanted me to because I just sat through some of the worst movies of the year right before it. So it was a welcome change. This movie had cinematography, guys. This movie had cinematography. I forgot that existed after the past couple movies. Victor Frankenstein. A very okay movie. It wasn't bad. It wasn't fantastic. It was just middle of the road, and I enjoyed it. The best part about it was the actors, but this one was just okay. I could see myself watching it again if it was on, but I can't see myself going like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch Victor Frankenstein. It's just an okay movie. Not a bad year as far as movies go. I feel like there were more hits than misses. I feel like especially that first year there was so many bad movies. This year I think we had a lot of good movies, only like a handful that were bad. And I actually enjoyed watching most of the movies. The stress didn't come until I actually had to make the videos. So before I go, I'm going to leave you with the surprise review I hinted at. This is a review of Wishbone, the Frankenstein episode. Enjoy. I'll see you next time. I used to watch Wishbone as a kid, and I'm actually surprised how little I remember of this show. I remember the concept and the dog, but there are some pretty strange elements of this show that I'm surprised that didn't stick with me as an adult. One of those things is Wishbone sounds like a guy doing a Jim Carrey impression. And I forgot how incredibly 90s this show is. It makes sense since, it's of the time. The episode starts off with Wishbone's owner, Joe, who is unfortunately suffering from bad 90s hairdos, is trying to build a science project for the science fair when he finds his friend has a secret science project. For some reason, this reminds Wishbone of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and events that happen in the book parallel events that are happening in Wishbone's life. Mainly, the kid's friend, his experiment escapes the same time Frankenstein's monster escapes in the story. I was actually really surprised to see how scary the monster looked in this for a kid's program. I mean, I guess he looks more like Bizarro in the deleted scenes of Superman 4, but for a kid show, I'm sure this scared some youngins. Overall, this was a really nice blast from the past. I enjoyed watching it again, and despite being kid-friendly, it was surprisingly faithful to the Mary Shelley story. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next year in my 5th and final season of 31 Days of Horror.